Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hi, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 22, Children of Time. The crew of the Defiant run into their descendants after a predestined time travel accident. What did you think of this one?
I really enjoyed this one. It's another time travel episode, I guess, but they kind of dance around it to make it novel. It doesn't feel tired, which is good.
Well, they never had to correct the timeline or make sure no one knew they were there or all the usual time travel rubbish. So it was time travel, but very light on it.
And I love episodes like this where the characters are presented with a situation that could not exist in what we know of reality. And that's what this episode is.
This one certainly leaned more towards hard sci-fi. So I loved this one. I just think it was a really clever little episode.
The premise is great, and we have characters facing strange situations, and they used clever ways to tie the two timelines together. So you have old Odo making an appearance, and then also Dax's Trill has been passed along. I liked having those ties to the different timeline, and it's not completely disconnected where you have to take their word for it. Oh yeah, we're your descendants, trust us. And they could scan them and check the DNA and all that, but having those ties really helped it. I don't know how it helped it.
It helps it massively. They used Dax really well in this episode. And Odo as well. They got rid of the original Odo, actually put him in a bread maker.
Yeah.
With some stuff attached. And then used the old Odo with the different makeup. And they used Kira as well, because knowing that you're going to die is quite heavy news.
Praying over your own grave is pretty messed up.
So they had all the pieces, and they played them very well. Worf also, his spirit lived on, although not apparently his genetics. Because all the Trills did not seem to be very Klingon.
I guess Trill DNA is more dominant. I did enjoy that Yedrin, his spots aren't as prominent. And that was cool, because all of the intermingling and generation after generation, it wouldn't be as stark as Dax's would be, Jedzia's.
Yeah, he'd be partially Trill, partially mix of other things. I like how they didn't just make the spots faded. They have a tendency to make all mixed species creatures just half and half. Whereas in this case, the spots were patched rather than faded, which is something that could well happen. I'm not saying fading or blending isn't necessarily going to happen, but genetics have a lot of different ways of expressing, and blending is only one of them.
This episode is kind of secretly a Bad Day O'Brien episode.
Yeah, I was thinking that he gets to find out that he loses his wife and children and then dies. I mean, if you want to add it to the count of the number of times O'Brien has experienced his own death in some form, that can go on the pile.
Oh, I definitely thought about that during this episode. Well, there's another dead O'Brien in this series' run.
It's a bit less prominent because everyone, especially Kira, is dealing with their own distant deaths. It's not like he's standing over the corpse going, "Oh, not again." Kind of half expected them to say, "Oh yeah, we just cryogenically froze O'Brien on the moment of his death. You wanna come see? We'll unfreeze him."
He did, apart from Kira, he did seem the most distressed.
Well, there is something about this episode that kind of annoys me a bit, which is the ending. And if you remember, O'Brien has a little baby.
Yes.
I can't imagine him ever buying into the let's crash and burn plan.
I didn't struggle with that one because he didn't give in right away, and he was resistant for so long. He was holding out and then interacting with this little girl who has no idea she's about to be wiped from existence and being surrounded by all these mollies. I saw it as overwhelming O'Brien eventually.
I would have preferred it a little if he hadn't gone on board with the plan. We've seen before he is quite stern about his views and opinions. Stubborn, you could say.
Yes.
And if you've got young kids, you will do a lot to remain their parent. I don't think you've convinced someone in a day to never see their kids again.
But it was in service of more kids.
But they're not his kids.
They're his descendants.
Yeah. Which is another thing I wish they'd done is, I think old Odo brought it up, that this was just one potential future, and by choosing this one, you're wiping out all the other descendants that these people would have back on Deep Space Nine. Which is really the crux of the matter. Are these people more important because you've seen them?
It's easier to feel bad about removing someone's existence once you've met them.
Are they even removing their existence, though? It's a paradoxical solution, so how do they even know what happens to that timeline? Or maybe there's some rule that paradoxical timelines just get deleted.
That's what Worf made it seem like. He seemed certain they wouldn't exist anymore.
From their perspective, yeah. But both timelines are paradoxical in this case, because they were only saved thanks to the actions of old Odo. They just seemed awfully certain that everyone was going to be deleted. They had no doubt.
It is strange how certain they are. I guess they don't have vivid imaginations and can't see how it could go any other way.
This is silly because they've been to the mirror universe. They know there's parallel timelines and stuff. It would have been nice if there was more uncertainty about it, because then it makes a lot of the moral choices a bit grayer and muddier.
They're all in collective denial.
The other thing that annoyed me a little bit about the ending was Odo says that old Odo was the one what did it.
Why does that annoy you?
I kind of liked not knowing exactly who it was.
I liked not knowing who it was too, but then that revelation is going to cause a rift between Kira and Odo, and they can do something with that. I can't see Kira now forgiving Odo for taking that action. And at the same time, I completely understand why Odo did it, because in his mind, he's thinking, oh, I love Kira so much, I'm willing to wipe out 8,000 people to show how much I love her. And
Well, he said it wasn't even wiping out 8,000, he's substituting them for a different set of people, different timeline.
okay, so he has a way of justifying it, but that's not how Kira sees it.
I don't know if she'll blame Odo. It wasn't actually him that did it. I mean, it was him plus 200 years alone. But by the way, he's a freaking Casanova.
Odo sided with old Odo, though, and now Kira is burdened with the most intense case of survivor's guilt.
Did he side with him? He didn't say, yeah, it was the right thing to do. He said he has no idea if it was the right thing to do.
He didn't seem apologetic that it happened.
It was because it wasn't his fault. He didn't do it. You can't really feel bad about something future you does. A distant future you.
I like how differently he played old Odo. He has a different presence. Seems happier, as if a great weight has been lifted.
What was the weight of the prosthetic makeup? No, he is a mad good actor, and he really doesn't get to showcase much on Deep Space Nine, especially because of the full face makeup. Kind of makes him poker faced the whole time. Planting Day, then, that got a bit Disney.
I guess it did.
Yep. I was half expecting a musical number. Why don't they have agricultural tech? They have replicators and all sorts of computers and stuff. Why don't they just build a tractor?
That would take all the fun out of it.
Hand-planted agriculture is not fun.
They fooled me
It's
in
a
this episode.
brutal and difficult existence. Mechanized agriculture is pretty much the reason that the 20th century had massive technological leaps, and that famine was drastically reduced.
Because they have replicators and advanced technology, planting is recreational. So they're getting their kicks.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. I was thinking about what you would do if you crashed. You'd probably want to get new replicators set up as first priority. I don't know, it'd be really scary if you just got one replicator. Oh, if this one breaks, we are screwed.
And we're done.
I have spilled soup in the replicator. God damn it, Worf.
You humanoids. Always spilling soup.
Old Odo kind of played them all like a fiddle.
They had no reason to suspect it was tampered with.
Not just that, he spilled the beans to Odo in Link form so that they would know after the fact, and also told Kira that he has a love for her, and then told current Odo that he told Kira. He had them all played.
He's a huge gossip.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. It seemed more like he'd been planning these events quite well in advance.
He had 200 years to think about it. That made me think about how sad Odo's life would be. He is going to outlive literally everyone he meets.
Well, not Dax's symbiont.
I think he has a better chance of survival than the symbiont. That thing has to die eventually, whereas he's just some goo that is solid occasionally.
Well, we know the symbiont can reach 500 plus in this episode, presumably a lot more. We don't know how long a changeling lives. or if they in fact ever die, because I get the feeling they maybe don't.
That's the impression I get, although I'm basing that on nothing.
It seems logical that they would live forever, or I don't mean like immortally, but that they don't seem to age and die, because they seem to have children purely at will, like they had kids and sent them out into the galaxy, but that seemed more like an action. I don't know, maybe they just have really good contraception. Maybe it's just because we think of them as gods.
I didn't like that Yedrin Dax lied to them and tried to trick them into sacrificing themselves. Oh yeah, this duplication thing will work. Trust me.
It would have been good if they left the ending ambiguous, because then that would have given him a good motive to have tampered with the Defiant, and then you wouldn't know if it was Odo or not. If he didn't have such motivation, then there would be no point in concealing the fact that it was Odo. But I like that he wasn't just Dax 2. He was quite a crafty guy.
Well, he has 200 years on her.
Yeah, but that's just 60%.
With this episode, they have a chance to redeem Dax, Jadzia. And I say that because she has the line in this episode that she was bent on making some great discovery. I would love if Dax recognized her aimlessness on the station, and this stirred her to have ambition to realize that she is sitting around and doing nothing all the time. It would be great if she became self-aware, but I don't see this happening, but I want to believe.
The truth is out there.
Yes.
She's a good character and she's played well. It's nice to have an episode like this where she's actually used. It's probably the worst thing about this show is how pointless Dax is a lot of the time.
It's frustrating when we have episodes where she is an asset, such as this one. Why can't she be an asset more of the time?
Well, this one and the previous one, so maybe she's decided to become useful?
I hope so.
We all hope so.
How fantastic is it, though, that here she insists that they do some science stuff, that they do a survey.
Yep. She's showing character agency rather than just hang around and making stupid jokes. So that's an improvement. Was Worf actually planning on stabbing all those guys to death?
I don't know. He delayed it, so he didn't want to do it. But I don't think he ever wanted to do it and hoped some solution would present itself, which it did.
It's clear there were a lot more of them, not just those 3. He tells them during the happy planting session to go get the others, so presumably there's, I don't know, hundreds. Would he really just turn off and say, okay, form a queue,
Form an orderly queue.
everyone stand with your throats out, I'm just going to run along with the knife, chopping
Blades
all your heads
pointing.
off. If anything, he was the most screwed, because if he had to do that, I don't know if Cisco would let him off. Well, Cisco probably would, because he seemed to not care too much for most of this episode about what was going on. But still, hundreds of counts of murder.
Cisco kind of seemed detached, as if he forgot he had a son back on Deep Space Nine. I didn't see any flash of sadness on his face until someone else pointed out that, hey man, you have Jake to go back to.
Well, he was kind of like, yeah, this is a good laugh, but come on, we're going home. He had that meeting where he just dismissed everyone's opinions.
That was pretty funny. I like the conversation they had, how they were arguing about destiny. That's a fascinating topic. We know what the results are if we follow this path, but it's not ideal for us, but then it impacts 8,000 people, etc. And then Cisco chimes in, well, none of this matters because I'm the captain and I do what I want.
In a sense, it's good leadership. He should say, right, the right thing to do is go home. We're going to go home. Don't get emotional about it and just remain detached. That's, well, in a military sense, I guess, that's commanding leadership. But eventually just like, oh, so everyone wants to stay? Yeah, okay, we'll stay. Whatever.
I'm not faulting his leadership here for once. It's just funny.
It's kind of funny.
Odo shows off that he has a surefire escape from any social situation, and that's saying, excuse me, I need to regenerate.
Well, that is kind of like saying, hey, I gotta go poo. Which will actually get you out of any social situation.
I don't think he would be judged as harshly as someone who announced, hey, I gotta go poo. Saying you have to regenerate is benign compared to pooing.
Well, to us, but maybe that tactic doesn't work in amongst changelings.
Oh, what if they're all grossed out by it?
Like, oh, what?
Oh, you have to regenerate?
Well, go to the bathroom.
Why would you say that?
I'm eating here. Ugh.
I'm fake eating because I don't need to eat, but I'm still grossed out.
Too grossed out to fake eat. I'm still giggling. Sorry. Oh, do you have some wise words from the show?
I guess I'd rather believe that any relationship can work as long as both people really want it to.
Said by Ducat about Kira. But yeah, I think that's usually the key part of a relationship. Both halves of the relationship wanting to remain in the relationship.
It sounds silly, but a lot of people don't want to admit that. And then things fall apart, even though that basic concept is never addressed.
Or worse, you get people trying to salvage a relationship when it's obvious that their hearts are not in it.
Yeah, trying to force it for whatever reason.
Yeah, it never works. Well, maybe it works sometimes, but
Nope, never.
oh, okay, it never works. Well, that's relationships solved.
We did it. We solved relationships.
Yes!
Thank you, Dax.
Let's move on to the next episode.
All right.